June 8th through the 15th of 2012, 4 of us from Grace Community Church traveled to Siguatepeque with an organization called Visiting Orphans. We met up with 9 others from a church in Tennessee as well. And the main ministry that we worked with in Honduras was called La Providencia. And La Providencia is a very comprehensive ministry. Currently, they have a medical clinic, a school, and the main focus of their ministry right now are family homes that serve orphans. And each family home, currently they have 2, each home has 2 parents who've committed to raising these children basically as missionaries and being there for the duration of these kids' lives. And in so doing, they're providing very stable, safe, and secure environments for these kids so that these children will grow up knowing the love of parents and also siblings and people that they can call family. In the future, La Providencia would like to expand from 2 homes to 12 homes and also include homes for widows and who could serve as grandparents for those kids at the homes. This was my second trip to Honduras and my second opportunity to work with La Providencia, and it was a great opportunity to return and build upon relationships that started last year. The thing that overwhelmed me the most was our host hospitality and their willingness to invite us into their homes. And I felt just overwhelmed by the fact that we were so united and so close because we share a common belief and a common faith. And even though there were language barriers or cultural boundaries or differences, we were united in Christ. And for me, I've been challenged to consider ways in which I can be more welcoming and invite more people into my home and into my life and truly represent the community that God desires for us to have with others.
When I returned back to the United States following our mission trip to Honduras, I was struck by the experience I had because it was different than what I had expected. There are 3 things that were very different. First of all, I found out that missionary work is really not about giving out money or our excess material goods. It really is first and foremost about building our relationship with God, both within ourselves and with the people that we serve. That is our primary focus, or should be, followed by meeting the material needs or the medical needs of the people we're coming to serve. Secondly, I learned the joy of having a less scheduled itinerary for the day. As it turns out, we had a lot of waiting time, and we had 8 hours of wonderful sleep a night. How often do we get that in the United States? And I just learned, you know what, that is really a better way of life. So what I am doing with myself now is scheduling less things, less activities for the day. My day does get filled up, and by me scheduling less, it gives God an opportunity to put people or events in my life that need His attention. Thirdly, and perhaps the most important thing I feel, is what am I going to do with this experience going forward? And one might argue the orphans that we were there to serve might feel lonely, unloved, and we were there to help make them feel not that way. Well, there's a real need in our own community here in the Champaign-Urbana area, in my opinion, for the elderly. And so I feel called to reach out to those around me, first and foremost in my immediate family, but also maybe with the older folks who can sometimes feel lonely and abandoned, especially those in our nursing homes. So this has been a very, very good experience for me with a much different outcome, but as they say, it is what it is.
If I were to sum up our trip to Honduras in just one word, that word would be angst, which means an intense feeling of inner turmoil. This is what I mean. In preparation for our trip, I read a book called When Helping Hurts, Alleviating Poverty Without Hurting the Poor and Ourselves. And then later, I started reading a book called Toxic Charity. These 2 books have contributed to the angst by challenging me to think about the tension between God's call to help the orphans and the widows and the dangers of creating unhealthy, unwanted, dependent relationships that can be formed even with the best of intentions. Our mission, our goal, was simply to visit orphans, which is exactly what we did. Playing games, jumping rope, coloring, crafts, swinging, and telling Bible stories, and lots of soccer. We all had children sitting on our lap or holding our hands that were shown God's love by our touch. My heart was especially touched a couple of times. Once, while leaving the government-run gritty daycare facility, where it was obvious that those children craved caring adult attention. And as we left, one of the children clung to William, our teenage group member, his leg, and didn't want him to go. That place was hard to leave, knowing that our visit was oh so short. There were tears on both from the kids and from us. Another time my heart was touched was when we visited a foster home. The foster mom's name was Paula, her husband's name was Mark. They're from Texas and they've lived there about 7 years. I was more than inspired by Paula as she told the stories of her boys, all who have suffered horrible neglect and sexual abuse. She was so proud of each of them, bragging on them with the pride of a mother. These stories come pretty close to home as a former foster mom and now an adopted mom. She is the real deal, raising those boys as her own, struggling to meet educational, emotional, physical, and health needs of all of the boys in her home. So what's my takeaway? Well, that's a good question. Although I'd consider another trip to Honduras to continue those relationships that we made, my angst is much closer to home. What can I do for those orphans or could be orphans in the Champaign County? In God's good timing, I received an email from the director of Safe Families asking if we were still interested in becoming a safe family. This organization helps to keep the children out of foster care, prevent child abuse and neglect, and support and stabilize families in crisis. This request hung around in my brain during the whole trip, sort of challenged me to sign up and get started helping these kids that are a lot closer to home. And like the Tennessee group who have challenged to mobilize their church to go back to Honduras, I'm moved to inform and involve the families of grace to consider becoming a safe family. Helping a family in crisis is a messy thing. Asking a church to get involved is also messy. Making sure that the help that is given moves those families and mine forward to a place of development, wholeness, trusting God, building lasting communities that bring God glory. That could be really messy. Philippians 4:6 says, "Do not be anxious for anything." Okay, then I guess there's no angst that's needed because God's got this figured out.
One of the things God showed me on the trip was how to be more thankful. The people that we had met in Honduras were so humble and caring and also open to sharing the little things that they had had. And it made me appreciate my family more because I am one of 6 kids and with a single mother. Some of the kids had been abandoned in the orphanage in Honduras because it may have been too difficult financially for their parents to manage them or to take care of them. And even though things are very difficult right now, my mom has still not abandoned any of us kids yet. All that time where we had to sit and wait, it had made me think about the things that I had done in the past year and what was good and what was bad. Having that time to sit there and think, God had slapped me in my face. And it wasn't necessarily a bad slap. He was telling me that you need to step up to the plate and be a woman of God. And I learned that God does not have part-time followers. He either does not have followers or he has full-time followers. And God had told me that if I do not follow him, then I will get nowhere. One thing God had challenged me from leaving the trip in Honduras was to challenge myself to be more kind to my family and to be as an older sister. As being a working teen and being so busy, I've not had the chance to build a relationship with my siblings, and it has been very difficult. And so God showed me that I need to build a relationship with my family because the orphans in Honduras were abandoned and they don't have any family members. And God showed me to be more thankful of the family I have because family will always be there no matter what. When I went on the trip, I wasn't so thankful for my family. I just was like, okay, well, I'm going to move out when I'm 18. I don't, whatever they do, they do. But also, on this trip, it made me realize that family is the only thing that you have left, and also God. God has challenged me, and it's been challenging the past 2 weeks that we have been back, to start a better relationship with my family and also with God, and reconnecting with God and also as well with my family. So overall, I'd gone on the trip to Honduras with the mindset of going and changing people's lives and letting them get to know Christ. But really, God had changed my life on the trip.